Here are the pros and cons of living in Milton, Georgia. Pro number one is that this is a quiet town, very rural living. You're not going to have to be dealing with like a lot of road noise in your home. You're not going to have to be dealing with a lot of people, lines at the grocery stores. This is not that kind of city. It's a very far out, far from Atlanta, far from all of the busyness of Atlanta, kind of rural feeling town. And so this is a big draw for many people who live in Milton. They want to get away from the crowd. They want to get away from the hustle and the busyness of the Atlanta lifestyle. And so they move to Milton for that quiet, small town feel. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living. We put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the suburbs around Atlanta. Pro number two is that the majority of the homes in Milton have this kind of like farmhouse style, as made popular by like HGTV. Those farmhouse style homes are super common here in Milton, and it's one of the things that brings a lot of people to the area. Those like super white exterior homes with like the white kitchen and like the farmhouse sink and the big kitchen island that's like all open to the living room. That kind of feel is what you very often find here in Milton. And so this is a really big draw for many people who are looking for that kind of modern farmhouse style feeling home. It's not old farmhouse. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people who are thinking about moving to Georgia kind of think of Georgia as like being old and like behind the times. And we are kind of behind the times in some ways, but I'm not saying that you're going to get like a barn, a big red barn with your home in Milton. It's not like that, like a chicken coop, in the backyard. It's not like that. It is a more modern feeling suburban area. Milton is actually not that old of a city. It was just kind of recently in the last couple decades, kind of became its own city annexed from Alpharetta. And so this is a much newer city than some of the other suburbs around Atlanta. And a lot of the homes, even those farmhouse style homes, have really just been built in the last 10 to 20 years. So I'm talking more that kind of modern farmhouse feel. This is the kind of home that you're going to get in Milton. And not only that, but you're also going to get a lot more land for your home. If you look in like neighboring suburbs like Alpharetta or maybe Canton, you're not going to quite get as much land for your home in those suburbs as you would in Milton. Milton very often has a lot of big land lots for the homes, and so this is another big draw for many people who move here. Another benefit of living in Milton is the fact that there's like little to no crime here. If you're thinking about moving to Milton or you just have any questions about what it's like to live here, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. Thank you so much to everyone who has reached out. I'm always happy to help. I'm a local real estate agent here in Georgia. Even if you just have a question, no problem. Feel free to reach out anytime. Again, it's kind of a newer city, so there's not really a whole lot of people here. It doesn't attract a lot of attention. And so I would say there's like no crime. I mean, I'm sure there is that kind of typical petty crime that I'm sure if you look in the news, you'll find that Milton is somehow in the news, but Milton is just known for not having a lot of crime or no crime. And this is another big reason why a lot of people move here, is because they want to live in the safest city, maybe the safest city in all of Metro Atlanta. Pro number four of living in Milton is the public school district. This is a great area for finding excellent public schools. Summit Hill Elementary School is an 8 out of 10. Hopewell Middle School is a 7 out of 10, and Cambridge High School is a 9 out of 10. And so all of these school ratings come from greatschools.org, and in general, you'll find with many of these school rating websites that these schools in Milton are some of the best in all of Metro Atlanta. And then the last pro of living in Milton before we move on to the cons is just the quality of life in general. This is got so many great things about living in Milton, the low crime, the schools, the farmhouse feel, the neighborly community feel. All of that kind of adds to the quality of life. And so this is a big one for a lot of people who live in this area as well. Now, of course, there are some downsides of living in Milton. Every city has its downsides. downsides. And actually, I would say Milton has got quite a few of these deal breakers for many people. So let's talk about some of the bad sides or the cons of living in Milton, Georgia. First off, the cost of living is potentially the highest in Milton of any of the suburbs of Metro Atlanta. I'm not sure that it's technically the highest, but just as someone who lives nearby Milton, I know that it is super high in Milton. The home prices average around 1.1 million. And so the lowest home values, the lowest home price that you're going to find in Milton is probably about 900,000, maybe 850. And so there's definitely going to be a high cost of living price when it comes to Milton. And so this is one reason why not everybody moves to this area. Another con of living in Milton is that because it's so far out, they don't yet have sewer lines. And so the majority of the homes, maybe all of the homes in Milton, are on septic tank. Now, septic tanks are pretty common here in Georgia, but in Milton, it's like every single home is on septic. And so if this is a reason that, or if this is like a deal breaker for you, if you don't want a home that's on a septic tank, then you could pretty much rule out Milton altogether. Another downside of living here is that there are a lot of these 2-lane roads in Milton. There's not really a whole lot of highways that go through this city. This city is, again, kind of a relatively new city, so they're still doing a lot of the development in this city. But that also means that the roads are very often a bit smaller. And so you've got a lot of these 2-lane roads. And by 2 lanes, I mean 1 lane for each direction. So not really a whole lot of room for getting around the slow traffic. And there's also a lot of these 4-way stops in Milton. And so if you drive through the area, you'll see they're actually trying to build a lot of the roundabouts to help out this traffic situation that they've got going on there. But in the intersections where there are 4-way stops, the traffic is terrible. Just trying to get out of the city of Milton sometimes takes a long time, especially during rush hour because of these 2-lane roads with 4-way stops. And then you got the terrible rush hour traffic drivers. All of this adds to this kind of traffic issue that they have there. So if you live in Milton and you're working in Atlanta, that commute is definitely going to be a long one. You could be looking at about an hour-and-a-half commute to get to Midtown from Milton. And so this is definitely a big deal breaker for a lot of people. That traffic can be horrendous during rush hour traffic. Now, there are a lot of other cities around Milton that have a big enough economy to support the employers and plenty of places to work if you're living in Milton that's not Atlanta. For example, Alpharetta has a very big tech industry. Marietta is nearby. Sandy Springs. These cities are all very big and have plenty of employers, so very often people work in these closer cities if they live in Milton. But if you had to drive all the way to Atlanta, that would be probably a deal breaker for many people. And then also because Milton is more of a rural city, you're not going to get that city life vibe. You're not going to have things to do past 9 o'clock. Many things close at 9 o'clock in Milton. Public transportation or the easy walkability, these kinds of things are not found in Milton. And so if you're looking for that city lifestyle, Milton is not really the way to go. Another con of living in Milton is this claustrophobic feel that sometimes I get when I'm in this area. I'm not sure if other people feel this, but this is certainly something that I feel when I'm in Milton. As someone who is from South Florida originally, if you come from an area like California or Florida or I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest where there's not a lot of these tall pine trees that we have here in Milton, it can be surprising to be surrounded by these pine trees all the time. And when I am surrounded by these pine trees, it's there's this claustrophobic feel. I know it's kind of weird and ambiguous, but it's something that I've heard other people talk about, and it's something that I have always felt when living here in the Metro Atlanta area, especially in Milton, because it's so undeveloped and there are so many of these tall pine trees. It's there's little to no long sight lines when you're in Milton. When you're in I know this is weird. When you're in Florida, it's easy to see long sight lines, especially if you're on the coast. You don't get that claustrophobic feel, but because we have these trees everywhere, it's just like you're always surrounded by these super tall, massive 100-foot pine trees, and it kind of makes you feel like you're always boxed in. I don't know, something I think about sometimes. But anyways, if you're thinking about moving to Milton, one of the best ways to get a feel for what it's like living here is to like come and visit the area. And so I've made an entire video where I walked through downtown Milton so you can get a good idea of the vibe of the city. You can check out that video right here. I'll see you in the next one.